we have Gilad Lotan. Gilad is a VP and Head of Data Science at BuzzFeed. And he'll be doing a presentation about Edit meets AI, and it's about matching content with audiences. Please welcome Gilad to the stage.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are you feeling? Good? Great. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the organizers, the inspiring talks that we've seen, and to you all for being here and being so interested in these topics. I'd love to show you and talk to you about how we think about data internally at BuzzFeed and some of the machine learning and AI applications that we found valuable to our company, to our business. And so we first start by unlocking a computer. Oops. Just 1 second. All right. Great. So who here consumes content from BuzzFeed? Who sees BuzzFeed content on a website, on BuzzFeed.com, on apps, Facebook, Snap? Are you guys on Snap? Instagram? You're probably on Instagram, YouTube. So what's amazing about BuzzFeed is we create content, all types of content. We also distribute it and publish it across the web, across a variety of platforms. And as you can see, our content is incredibly varied. So from deep investigative reports that can take months or years to uncover and unravel, to the dog that has a human face, which can take over the internet in a single day, to long-form video content, like our shows on Netflix, Follow This, or our shows on YouTube, like the Try Guys. The animated GIF here is an example of a news show that we have daily on Twitter. It's called AM to DM. It runs every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Right, so we create this variety of content and a variety of formats, and we also distribute it across the internet. And BuzzFeed really consists of this incredibly distributed and massive content network. So I think what's unique about BuzzFeed is we've truly embraced the internet and embraced distributed platforms as well as built our own. So we have a set of websites which we produce and publish content to, as well as apps where a lot of consumption happens. But we have these massive audiences that we've amassed across Facebook, Snap, Instagram, YouTube. And they're equally as important for us. So we invest a lot in these audiences. And I would say that one thing that really helps us get the value of that investment is this, what we call this learning loop, right? So we see every published event as an opportunity to learn something about our audience and learn something about how we matched our content to audiences. So obviously, we create content, we publish it, we learn about its performance. How did it do? How are users responding? And then we iterate. And data really fuels this process. I'd say it's core to the culture of the company. Everyone has access to data. We build a lot of internal tools. I'll show you some of them. But data is core to powering these continuous learning and experimentation. So we experiment a lot. And some of the previous speakers have talked about a set of experimentation. I want to show you what experiments look like in the context of content. So one of the most common use cases for content experimentation for most media companies, they would run A/B tests, right? And you would test a variety of things, like what is the title that I should use for this item before I publish it? Or what is the length of the sentence, the opening head? What image should I place, right? How do I format and package this content so it reaches the appropriate audience? So this is an example of an A/B test where we were testing sentence length in the head. So when we publish an item, there's a title, there's an image. Between the title and the image, you get some text. And we ran a series of tests to understand whether longer or shorter texts perform in a way that gets more engagement from users. Who thinks variant A, the long text, performed better? Raise your hand. More text. Who thinks variant B? Shorter. Wow. You guys, did you see my slides before? So we run these tests, and we continuously run these kinds of tests throughout the day, every day, and we sort of generate these learnings that help us make these optimizations as we publish content. Now, we also run a set of content experiments. And for those of you who know of Tasty, it is a BuzzFeed brand. It is a brand that's focused on content that is around food, around preparation. And it really started out as a content experiment. A set of creators experimented by having a camera on top, stop motion, really beautiful but quick videos that show how to prepare something. And they stayed close to performance data and really iterated their format until they reach this amazing, sort of amazingly packaged way to highlight the creation of food. Well, this experiment, fast forward a few years later, is this massive franchise. You can get Tasty kitchenware in Walmart. You have Tasty videos in many different languages around the world, and it's some of the biggest properties and pages that we have. So as our content creators sort of focus on making content, they envision what the role or the job of a content is. And for example, in this case, 44 things that all girls do but nobody talks about. As the writer of this piece sort of puts it together, they think about the audience, and they envision the role that this item plays in their day-to-day life. It can help them tell a story. It may feel very real or very true, right? And as we collect this kind of information from the creators, right? What do you think our readers will be doing with this piece of content? What we do then is we look at reactions, right? So we get hundreds of thousands of reactions to our content every day, right? We're really in tune to our audience. So in this case, one user wrote a friend as they were sharing our piece of content, oh, we can be this good, or oh, this made me laugh, or this could be us, right? So our users are sort of sharing content and using it as a way to connect with their friends, with their families. So we started to map this through a framework we call the cultural cartography framework. And really, it's ways to identify the jobs, the role that our content plays in our audience lives. Right? Some of it makes our users laugh. Some of it is used for connection. Some of it is used to sort of reflect on yourself. This is me. So we have a set of content jobs, which then we start to classify all of our content based on these labels, right? And so we could see for every, and these are internal tools that we have available for every piece of content or every job, what are the items that have sort of resonated most with audiences. So this has been talked a lot previously about efficiency that you can get through machine learning, artificial intelligence. And I want to show you some examples. And here's one very specific way in which we achieve greater efficiency in scale. So a typical problem for BuzzFeed and many publishers, given a set of content, where do you put it, right? If there's political coverage, well, it's pretty clear you put it on your politics page, right? If there's food content, well, you put it on your food page. But we have a variety of pages that are, and a lot of content that maybe isn't as easy to classify and may actually be suitable for multiple audiences, right? And so here we have this adorable dog who looks like a bear. We have the chili dog bread ring, and 16 cows that are too cute for words, right? And we want to know where to place this content and whether it fits in our animal page. So if you're a data scientist, you say, OK, well, I have this content. I have this page, and I want to build a classifier to identify content, whether it fits, like a binary classifier, whether the content fits in this page or doesn't, right? So you may choose a naive-based classifier, train it on historical data, which we have. We have editors who have made these decisions for many years, which content goes on which page. And what this very naive model does is it looks at the appearance of words and says, well, dog, that's a good word for this animal's page. Well, we should put, more likely put content that has the word dog, has the word bear, or adorable on BuzzFeed animals. But you very quickly get to what we call the hot dog problem, right? Obviously, well, while dog is a useful word, well, hot dog may not be as great for the animals page. And so as you iterate, there are many ways in which this can be improved. We can use bigrams, right, instead of single words. But as we start to integrate neural networks into these classifiers, we can start to model the interdependencies between words and the associations between words and take into account the fact that, well, dog is useful as a word when classifying a piece of content, but not when it appears near chili or near bread, right? Then it's actually less likely to be relevant for the animal's account. And we get a scalar value that tells us the probability that a piece of content is suitable for a property, right? And so we found, in this case, LSTMs, or recurrent neural networks, very useful in modeling this relationship between words. And so we've built up a set of tools at BuzzFeed that help us reach this efficiency. Some of them are focused on relevancy, right? Does this item fit this page? Is it relevant? Some of them are focused on the type of content. Can we republish this? Is it evergreen, right? If it's newsworthy content, we probably will not republish it in the future. But if it is service content, if it's a generally sort of funny piece of content or an event that people may care about in the future, we would republish it, right, and help it reach more audiences. So we classify every piece of content, try to identify content that is likely evergreen and can be republished. We also have a variety of performance predictors to identify content that is high performing and that should be routed to other parts of our network. Right? And we take all that into account in addition with human creation, signals from our variety of editors, to then create this scheduling and routing service, right? To really optimize our reach and make sure every piece of content gets a fair chance at reaching audiences. Something that's been interesting is, in this day and age, well, we use Slack. There are many other versions of sort of company chat apps. But what's great about Slack is we can integrate some of our testing and iteration. So we have a Slack bot called Recce that people around the company use to find recommendations and then give us reinforcement, give us data back, which can help improve the recommendations that we make. Now, some other modules and places where we leverage machine learning to reach scale and efficiency. We have a variety of related content modules. Right? When you're on a piece of content, you may be interested in other types of content. And we use a variety of techniques and similarity techniques for generating these modules. One interesting way in which we've used Word2Vec, we've adapted it into something we call recipe2Vec. So rather than recommending content by similar entities, so garlic, herb stuff, pork chops, rather than recommending other pork chop items, we recommend content that's similar in terms of recipe preparation, right? In terms of the steps you take when you create this item. We also trained a recurrent neural network to create content on its own. And I have to say, it's a work in progress. We have a lot of work to do. But it was definitely entertaining. So we fed a recurrent neural network our data, our recipes from Tasty, right, and asked it to create something on its own. And it came up with pineapple pizza nachos. So this is all automated, right? The title, the servings, the ingredient lists. So what it did well is it figured out that, well, recipes have titles, they have this servings line, they have a set of ingredients, and ingredients look this way. So it actually learned this representation of recipes. So you take, for this nachos, you take breadcrumbs, eggs, salt, pepper, and cooked macaroni. And then the preparation steps start to get a little interesting, especially baking the rice in the oven. Well, anyways, I'll let you read this later. You could check out our code on GitHub. It's freely available. So as a company that invests a lot in audiences off-site, where we have less control, it's become increasingly important for us to also help identify distinguish between real and fake, right? Identify places where our audience is being manipulated, but also measure aptly the size and range of audiences there. So I just want to show you a few examples where data science and some machine learning can really help distinguish and disambiguate between real users and fake users. So in the network graph that you see here is a representation of users and who they're connected to in a social network. And what you see are very clear boundaries between the real social network, which has these organic set of connections across users, and then the fake part of the network, which are these loosely, basically almost not connected nodes. And this is a user that had basically 50% of their followers as fake accounts. What you see on the other side are time series plots that show the behavior of users in a social network. So these are commenting. And when you can basically approximate user behavior by using a linear function, you know that it's likely scripted, whereas in this case, you see a user commented every 15 seconds, right? Put a comment in the network. So they're likely not real. Now, I have to say, this is not easy, and there are many cases where we struggle to know whether someone's real or not. This is the case, the real case of likely a real account. I'm still not completely sure if they're real, but if they are real, they're probably Tasty's biggest fans. They comment on all the things that we publish, but they comment with a single word. They write yummy, right, for every piece of content. But what you could see as you dive into the data, that sometimes they spell yummy with one M, with two M's, with three M's, right? So maybe there's a human there. So I hope I've fairly convinced you that data can give us superpowers, and we believe that it does. It gives people across the company, it gives managers, it gives content creators better ways to understand our audiences and how content matches to audiences. But we have to be aware of the consequences as we make more of these tools and more of these data available. It can put people at risk, right? And it is our duty to make sure that doesn't happen, right? All of our duty as we create these set of technologies. Thank you so much, and have a great, great conference.
Thank you, Gilad. That was a great presentation. Out of curiosity, as you experimented and did so many of these tests between audiences and content, what was the most unexpected thing that you came across in your experiments?
What was the most unexpected thing that we came across in our experiments? There's a set of content that I think at the onset, I never imagined would take off so well. One thing we've done recently at BuzzFeed, we constantly try new concepts around content. So we have an R&D team, and they came up with this animation called the Good Advice Cupcake. It's huge on Instagram. It's one of our biggest growing account ever. And what it does, it's this beautiful Japanese-style animation of a cupcake. Our users call it Cuppy. And it gives advice on a day-to-day basis. And at the onset, expectations were not that it would be this huge, but it's becoming one of our biggest accounts, and it's really drawing engagement from our audience. So I think that was definitely surprising.
Well, I'm going to open up for questions from the audience. It's a bit hard to see the hands, so I might need some help. Oh, there.
Hi, it's me again from Capgemini. What are the things you did to try and identify real or fake content?
Yeah, so how do we identify, what are things that we did to identify real or fake content? So first of all, our news team really owns that beat. They report on misinformation and manipulation. So they write stories, they fact check, they verify, and they write it, and we distribute it to our audiences. And we've been focused on that beat for years, before the US elections, before fake news became a thing. And so I say one thing that we do well is we write about these issues, and we make sure the important ones are accessible to our audiences. The other thing that we do, because we operate on social networks and we report on audiences there, is we run frequently. We run these analyses, and we may look at anomaly detection to identify outliers in the data and sort of assess whether they may be due to some sort of bot behavior. And we could see, especially when we look at traffic patterns for geographic regions that are anomalous may indicate extended bot behavior, and we've found that many times. And we also do these sort of analyses like I showed, where we look at the time series data and we look at engagements over time. That data, depending on the platform, may be harder to get at scale. And so we do it in a focused way where we suspect there may be some manipulation of metrics.
I think I saw a question here as well.
Hi, Rudolf Müller from Maastricht University. You say you want to have efficient matches. Now, how do you define efficient? Because is it efficient if the consumer reads what she or he wants to read? And does that not permanently confirm a predefined opinion?
Right, so how do we find efficiency, and is there confirmation bias? Because we're feeding a user what they want to read. I'll tackle the first part of the question. Well, I think any tech team has a set of ways in which they define what's valuable to them. As we saw in the previous speaker in Heineken, well, we have a set of KPIs that help us measure things that we care about and things that we believe are helpful and useful and drive value for our audiences. So one of them may be increased number of page views per session. As we have users consuming our content on our site, on our apps, well, if we lengthen their session, that may bring some value to them. Well, we can run an A/B test and measure the change in this metric, right? And so we have a variety of metrics that we care about that help understand how efficiently we are matching content to users. And one of the ways, it could be an extended session.
Any further questions? Well, I hope if you have any further questions, they can come and find you. Are you around for the next couple of days?
Yeah, I'm around.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gilad.